Hey everybody, Eric Chessen, founder of Autism Fitness, leading the movement for movement right here. And if you hear some background noise, they decided to pick up the garbage just as I was starting this edition of Tuesday training. So some natural background noise makes the whole thing organic. Anyway, if you are ready right now to join the movement for movement and become an astoundingly effective fitness and adapted PE coach, then look no further, well, look a little bit further to the link in the description below where you can register to join the Autism Fitness Level 1 certification and bring the most effective, meaningful, transitional fitness and adapted PE programs to the neurodiverse and autistic athletes that you serve on a daily basis or a weekly basis or whenever. So in today's Tuesday training, I want to talk about progression. So we talk a lot about modification in autism fitness programming because a lot of the strength and motor planning deficits that our athletes exhibit need to be met at their current level of ability, which for many of the exercises that we use require some type of modification or simplification of the challenge level of that exercise so that the athlete is actually getting the most out of it. If it's too challenging, we're going to see compensatory movement, we might see frustration, and ultimately the exercise is not going to do what its intended effect should be. Right? Or it's not going to have the intended effect because the challenge level is not going to be at the current level of ability for that athlete. So we have to modify. However, today we are going to talk about progressions. What happens when an athlete has met that standard? So they're ready, they've already done X and now they're ready to move on. So when we're talking about progressing, most important rule is we don't progress just to progress. We don't use variety just for the sake of doing something different. And we don't use a progression simply because a certain amount of time has elapsed. So for example, it's not, oh, it's been 6 weeks, it's time to go heavier, or it's time to go faster, or it's time to add more exercise. That is not conducive to the success of that athlete. That's just more for the sake of doing more. And usually that's about the coach and not actually about the athlete. Many of our athletes are going to need weeks and weeks and weeks, if not months and months and months, with the same level of challenge of that exercise in order to really master it independently, for us to work out any of the compensatory movement patterns to provide that strength and stability that they need in order to generalize that skill to other areas of development. So it's not, again, a time-based thing where you say, okay, well, this week, let's just try arbitrarily 2 more pounds or 3 more pounds. It doesn't work that way. We have to coach and we have to program based on what is in front of us. That is the know what you're looking at principle in the autism fitness curriculum. So I want to show you an athlete who you've seen before, my guy Zeke, and he started out doing an overhead press with a pair of 2-pound sandbells. And over time, he progressed as he was able to perform this exercise independently. When we say independently, that's independently with good form, meaning that he has control all through the movement. So if I share my screen here, which I'm going to do in just a second. Here we go. All right, gonna pause this, gonna open this, and here we go. So I'm gonna take you to the point where we're pressing here. So this originally, and this is a year ago now, you see that overhead press, and he's got a good range of motion here. Zeke's got it going on with the press, full range of motion, decent control on the way down as well, right? And very little latency in between presses. So this looks good, and this is benefiting him because he's got a great grip. The shoulders are doing what the shoulders need to do here. He's got that control in the eccentric, very important, right? And feet are mostly staying on the floor. So it's clear that 2 pounds in each hand is sufficient. Right now, he's able to do it. And what we call our standard, if this athlete can do 3 sets of 10 reps with this weight, and we go much more in detail why that is so important in the Autism Fitness Level 1 certification. So he reaches standard, and then we can go somewhere with that. Where do we go? We progress. Now, with a strength-based exercise like an overhead press, where we want to go is up, meaning up in weight. We want to increase the weight of the exercise, not so much that the athlete no longer has control over that movement. We always want the athlete to be able to control the movement pattern. So we move up usually cautiously with 2 pounds or 3 pounds. And then we get to the point here, and I'm going to share my screen. There's several months later. Now he's pressing overhead with 8 pounds in each hand, and it still looks good. So we never want to sacrifice form and technique. So here you see a little bit of regripping. There's that press. Starting off looking pretty good, still has that control. The weights were a little bit forward, but this is a way that we can progress. I'll show it one more time. So now he's progressed to the point where he can safely, with good technique, handle those 8-pound sandbells. There's that good range of motion right there. So progression, an athlete, what we always want to consider is what is the athlete going to get the most out of with this exercise, and what is the level of challenge that they're going to get the most out of right now. That is critical to performance, and it's critical to the outcome. Right? So when we look at it, we have to understand the biomechanics. We have to understand the movement pattern, what it needs to look like and what it looks like for this athlete right now. When that standard is mastered, so Zeke can press the 2-pound sandbells overhead, awesome. Now we can move up to 4 and then to 6, and then finally up to 8-pound in each hand. So particularly with strength exercises, we want to go up in weight. When we're talking about significant amounts of weights where we're getting over 20, 25, 30 pounds in each hand, or 12 or 14 kilos, if we're using the metric system, then there's more consideration. But early on, because strength is such a major factor in activities of daily living, we want to keep going up in weight. And then we'll get to the point where we need to discuss other options and other variations. Most of our athletes, the point is, if you're pressing 2 pounds overhead, it's time to go up in weight, as long as it's safe, as long as it works for the athlete, and as long as we can fade ourselves back and enable them to perform it independently, right? So we're not just going to go up in weight when an athlete cannot handle the previous amount or a lower amount of weight. We don't go up just to go up. We go up when there is justification for going up because the athlete has gained strength. And it's a great way to measure also, because it tells us, oh, this athlete has gotten stronger, so now the level of challenge can increase. So progressions are first of all, a major victory for both us and for the athlete. And then we look at it from a needs-based assessment. We say, what does this athlete need to continue getting stronger? Right. So with the overhead press, very straightforward. Once they meet that criteria, that standard 3 sets of 10 independent reps, then we can start going up in weight. So I hope that's been helpful for you. Again, Eric Chessen, same as I was in the beginning of this video, founder of Autism Fitness. And if you are ready to join the movement for movement and become an Autism Fitness Certified Pro, the link to register or even to learn more is in the description for this video below. And if this has been helpful for you, then please like, subscribe, and share the Autism Fitness here on YouTube.